Alright, time for another budget run. This time we are doing Emperor's Lost Chapters Chaos. And this is a tougher fight than the previous Chaos. Excluding this first wave, of course. First wave is kind of a joke. Luckily, Leon really shuts down the second wave, as does Edward. So that's going to be a big help here for this budget run. We have Edward with no LD at 0-3, Arciela at 0-3, and Leon is at 1-3, because that first Ingot is just so good with Leon. And I'm not entirely sure if these guys could have done it without it. I tried a couple of combinations of this, actually. I tried using Hallam instead of Arciela, and then Leon can still provide a little bit of heals to the party until Edward's able to shut the second wave down and stop them from doing their HP attacks after they self-battery. But I think I lost it, like, I had to reset the wave once and then I just got tired of it. It can probably be done though. Maybe I'll try it again later. And then I tried Aerith instead of Arciela, and I have come to the conclusion that for the most part Aerith is just a worse, well, I should say Budget Aerith is just a worse version of Budget Arciela. So if you weren't fortunate enough to pick up Arciela before, then picking up Aerith is fine. But if you do have Arciela as a budget unit, then Aerith as a budget unit is inferior in pretty much every way. And so I would not recommend it. And, well, I guess I can talk about why. Arciela is able to both do damage and battery her allies in one move with her HP attack, harmonic displacement I think it was, and Aerith is not able to do that. She either has to battery with Healing Wind or one of her skills really, ideally with Fury Brand I suppose, or do an HP attack. She can't do both in one action. And they hit relatively the same as far as how hard they hit, at least at the budget level. I believe at 3-3 though Aerith does hit harder. So that was my experience with that. The initial Brave regen is pretty decent here. 17,000 Brave. Certainly nothing to complain about, nothing to brag about, and works quite well with the damage and battery in the same action that Edward and Arciela typically provide. We ended up cutting this one pretty close. I originally ran this with an Immediatilian friend, and completed it in 101 turns, so that kind of sucked. And so this was my first attempt with the Noctis friend, and it ended up working out. So efficiency-wise, if you need to keep that turn count down, Noctis friend proved better than an Immediatilian friend. Although it did get a little bit trickier. Immediatilian's a little more brainless than Noctis. I don't think anyone would argue that. I do not enjoy this background music. Might have to do something about it for other runs I do on this stage. This is actually not going very well this first wave turn count wise. But whatever. One of the interesting things about Leon is I've removed his speed passives, and that allows him to basically just almost never HP attack and never run out of skills. So every turn he'll either use his EX or he'll use a skill, depending on just what we need at the moment. So my strategy for this is to keep Leon's EX Dark Knight's Soul, I think is the buff. That didn't tell me there. Is to keep Leon's buff up the entire time. None of their attacks are elemental, so that's pretty nice. And then Edward's debuff is going to prevent them from battering themselves. Harmonic Oh, wait, that's not a debuff. And so, they won't be able to acquire Brave. This is a bit of a tricky wave due to how fast they are, and due to how much HP they have, which makes sense, considering the battle is designed a bit around Emperor, who has 20% speed down and just auras itself, in addition to a 30% speed down debuff. So Emperor is a lot of speed down, and Emperor deals a lot of damage. So, just have to supplement for that in some other way. I would say Leon does quite well here, so anyone who has Leon, definitely bring him. And Edward does quite well here, but Edward does quite well pretty much anywhere. Edward and Leon's an interesting combination, especially when running them budget-wise, because Leon's biggest issue budget-wise is his lack of overflow on Dark Stream, his EX. And Edward helps out a lot with that. I think I'll do a Dissension here, yep. Figure I might as well. I guess I'm not too worried about the HP damage because Arciela heals enough. More so just because I know I'm about to use another Ascension and I'm trying to pace her skills out for a fight that will likely last pretty close to 100 turns at this point. For all I know. Brothers was definitely the summon to go with, as due to the amount of Brave regen everybody is getting, it's very easy to cap with this team at this point, due to the big Brave regen and big battery. Leon's a lot of fun to use. I like to take him whenever I can. It's just so funny to watch bosses battery us instead of dealing any sort of damage. Edward is refreshing his buff. His return buff was about to run out. HP plus because he was at full Brave and might as well. Interestingly enough, his return skill has a lot of overflow. So it's rare to cap on that. But it's nice to use his HP plus whenever he has a decent amount of Brave. There's actually a lot of dodges that happen in this run, often to our detriment. Big words. I will say this too, before you can get Edward's debilitating tones at level 3, it's good to use Leon's sap debuff to help reduce the Brave damage that they do, the HP damage that they deal. Sorry. That's a good amount of battery, huh? Yeah, see, like there, if he'd have had Leon's sap debuff, then he would have lost some Brave before using that HP attack, because that's technically 2 turns that they take there. It's probably a decent Dark Bind here. One of the other interesting things about Leon, when he's a budget, is technically his Dark Slash and Dark Bind deal more damage than his Darks, or I should say have more overflow, and so typically end up dealing more damage than Dark Stream. Obviously if there's 3 enemies that's not necessarily the case, but it's just kind of funny. Funny that his EX would deal less damage than his skills. Obviously putting ingots into him fixes that and gives him way more overflow on Dark Stream. Yep, another HP attack because Edward had so much Brave. Another miss. Probably should have removed those evasion passives. Although I guess it doesn't matter. These guys hit so hard that it'll battery us anyways. Plus the big Brave regen, I mean, yeah, Brothers was definitely the way to go. And that was a phone call. I wonder how that's going to come out in this recording. So yeah, this With Debilitating Tones, level 3, and Leon in this fight, it's pretty much just can you deal enough damage with everybody before you hit 100 turns. Fantastic team combination. I'm sure I'll be using it again in the future. Look at all that battery. One thing that Aerith does bring over Arciela is an overflow increase for the party, which is handy for Edward when he uses Mystic Waltz, because his overflow, even with his own overflow increases, just isn't that much. He always goes over cap, or tries to go over the cap with it. So even Edward appreciates more overflow when he can get it. I suppose if I wanted to be even crazier about damage, although, well, Dark Stream's hitting for like 71,000 each, so I guess with Edward's overflow, it is stronger than Leon's skills. And a Mystic Waltz. Sometimes, if it charges up too quick, I'll hold on to it for an additional turn. That way, if the enemies end up getting too many turns too close, I don't have to worry about Mystic Waltz falling off. Although with Arciela's speed debuff on them, that's pretty unlikely. Probably don't have to worry about that until later. Yeah, his return debuff was about to run out. Return buff was about to run out, so I had to use Hide there. Oh, only 67,000 because Edward has Hide instead of Return. With Aerith, that was getting over 80,000. But even then, it still wasn't enough to make up for Arciela's efficiency compared to Aerith. I'm sure I'll find some uses for her, though. Or maybe I'll give her some ingots. I haven't decided yet. I know Aerith's LD will happen before Arciela's LD. So that's also something to eventually consider in the future. Just using Dark Flashes because maybe I'll need the Dark Streams in the future. That way I don't run them all out too quick. And Leon has full Brave again, just like that. So these guys do enrage if you kill one first, which I believe I end up doing due to poor planning. But when something like, when you're fighting bosses who enrage, typically a decent strategy, especially if you're doing a lot of splash damage, is to get one of them down to, say, 40% HP or so, and then you focus on the other one. And the reason for that is because when one of them, you can kind of see there how the metal scorpion thing on the left took less brave damage, you'll see it here too, than the one on the right. And the reason for that is, of course, when they hit 50% HP, their defense increases. And so when you're doing attacks that deal brave damage to both, you can still take advantage of the extra brave damage you'll do to the one above 50% HP, and then hit them both with the HP attack at the end of the AoE Brave attack. Did that make sense? If that didn't make sense, it'll eventually make sense one day. Just trust me on that. Bring one of them at bring one of them below 50% HP, maybe to 40-30% and then focus on the other one. And then try to finish them off together. Edward is going to need to use Debilitating Tone, or refresh his Debilitating Tones with Mystic Waltz. There we go. Yeah, that came down to 1 turn left of it. If that ever falls off, then we're screwed. Well, we're not screwed, but we don't want that falling off. Refresh those buffs, Edward. If the fight is, if I know it's going to take fewer turns than close to the turn count, I won't really leave Edward in hide because he's losing Brave Battery from it. That and his buffs that he provides to the rest of the team aren't as good. But the return buff only lasts for 6 turns, so you have to make sure it doesn't run out. You can't just spam it, as opposed to Bard's Song, which lasts 10 turns each use. For whatever reason, I'm not sure what to do here. How do I save Dark Stream? Oh well. Return unfortunately does not batter the rest of the team, but it does Brave Refund Edward, so even if he doesn't have evasion anymore, he still has a chance to not get broken if he's being targeted. A good Mystic Waltz, but I'm drawing it out. And then I think I realized that that was a... Oh no, wait, no, that'll work. Yeah, that wasn't a bad idea. When I didn't summon there for any special reason, I wanted them to be below... Oh, now I see why I held Dark Stream back. So I wanted them to be below 50% HP when I summoned, and I want Leon's Dark Stream to be available in summon, because as you can see, it's going to hit harder with the max Brave increase, and I was probably thinking the same thing for Edward's Mystic Waltz, which will again hit harder. And then I'm going to swap Leon out for Noctis, because Leon provides, if I'm not mistaken, the fewest amount of auras to the team. And then Noctis can allow us to still attack without the enemy getting turns if you do it right. Man, that thing hits hard. But I guess all LD skills hit pretty darn hard, so yeah. And then I realized that Noctis's buffs don't actually bring you in front of the enemy when you're in summon. So I was like, oh shoot. But at this point, we kind of have to take the hit. Luckily, they don't really have Brave and HP attacks, and they're not going to break us to the point where they're going to take multiple turns at the same time. So it's like, whatever. I'll just take it. That should break Noctis. Yep. And I got worried about B's massive amount of Brave, which I didn't really need to be worried about. Yeah, that was a dumb launch. That didn't need to happen there. But I guess I did that so that way Edward could take his turn again before, although with the guy getting broken, it wouldn't have really been an issue. I don't know. Yay for little brain moves. And then I realized Noctis's buff had worn off of the other two. So if they take their turns, they're not going to move themselves back in front of B. So I was like, well, gotta refresh the buff. Gonna hold off on his burst. I will also say this, Noctis does quite well with Edward and Arciela because they battery him, which allows the extra attack from his burst to hit harder. Well, from his burst effect to hit harder. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, we're doing a lot of damage to B here. But, well, what's kind of funny is I could probably move, I could probably start attacking A, because B still has debilitating tones on him, whatever it is, and I don't have to worry about that. I don't need Leon back to worry about B's tail laser thing, battering itself in tail laser. I do need Leon back before A gets a turn, though. So really I just have to keep everyone in front of A, not B. But it was really late at night and I was tired when I was recording this. And I'd already messed up enough times, so oh well. This will still get done. Spoiler alert, I end up making it. Yeah, see, look at that. Free 59,000 damage thanks to Noctis's burst effect and Arciela battering him. So that's pretty handy when it can happen. Unfortunately, this is going to kill B. And then A is going to go a little crazier. Luckily, they don't have a Brave and HP in the same turn, or in the same move attack. They have a battery than HP, but not a Brave than HP. So I'm only a little screwed right now. That and Leon is back, so it can't even Brave attack us properly anyways. So yeah, go ahead and enrage yourself. Go into Pissy Boss mode, it won't matter. The only problem with only having one of them left is all of my splash damage. All of my attacks that would have done splash damage are no longer doing that, and so they become kind of weaker. Such as Mystic Waltz is now only technically dealing half the damage it would normally do against two of them. Luckily though, Noctis is so ridiculously efficient with his LB as a friend unit, and his burst, that it's not going to matter. I mean, it will come pretty darn close though, I will say that. Look at this guy, he keeps getting double turns or very close to double turns. But that's an enraged enemy for you. I still love how much damage Arciela ZX does versus one opponent. Should probably start using skills with Arciela soon, considering the turn count. Yeah, I'm a bit liberal with Edward's skill usage as well. Leon, I mean, he doesn't really get enough turns to run out of his skills. I mean, I don't really, I maybe HP attacked with Leon once or twice in this whole battle. But without his speed passives, he just gets fewer turns. But that's alright because he doesn't need to take a turn to do what he does, he just needs to stay buffed. And he needs to keep his HP up, I guess. So here is where things get kind of close. I was like, oh shoot, Mystic Waltz isn't up. And that thing's going to get 2 turns in a row, which means Debilitating Tones is going to fall off. So that kind of stinks, but luckily it's almost dead, and so I was kind of counting on, winning before it got a chance to tail laser me without Debilitating Tones level 3. Or stack 3. And there it is. Plus with a 1 million score. Go team. Even with my mistakes. Yes, I haven't completed all the battles yet. Leon's got some decent artifacts. Not too shabby. Rem's Sphere. It typically does nothing for him. I use it so rarely. Arciela with arguably perfect artifacts. Very fortunate to have had that. And I still haven't fixed Edward's artifacts. Promise to do it someday. Really. Thanks again for watching.